Oh, howdy folks. Welcome to the Arkenforge Q&A. This is very loose format, so just throw any questions or comments in the chat. So, our first question is, when will the Encyclopedia rework start? That will be soon. It's the best I can do. We've only got one feature left until we start the Encyclopedia rework, and that is the basically turning all our modules into windowable versions so you can move them around. And then once that's done, we'll be starting Encyclopedia. So I'm hoping that probably by the end of the month, that'll be in, and then we'll be able to start on Encyclopedia. I'm very excited for it. All right, our second pre-question. Any chance you'll do an updated roadmap like the one you'd posted a while ago back in January 2019? Yeah, we probably will. What was in the news post? I'll get to that shortly. So yeah, on the roadmap front, it's not a roadmap so much. It's like, this is what's going to be in the next public update. So we'll put something like that out. I can either this weekend or next week. Just for my curiosity, how far out do you suspect is the IR token support? On that front, we were going to have it out this year, but then COVID happened. So with no one playing in person anymore, it was kind of pushed down the list. So yeah, it'll probably be a next year thing at this point, I reckon. Let's bring up the news post for Forest Domain so we can see what was in that. So the news post front, basically just an update on how toolkit dev's going. We're doing a full UI and UX rework throughout the entire toolkit. Some of it you may have seen if you've been in our Discord. There's a lot of stuff not posted there, or if you've actually jumped into the beta version, you'll see the new updates as they come. So yeah, essentially just explaining that rather than doing it and releasing it to public on a module by module basis, we'll be releasing the entire thing at once, just so we don't have a sort of disjointed UI where the soundscape looks amazing, but the rest of it still looks terrible. And yeah, we're hoping to get that out at the end of the year, but whether that actually happens or not, we'll kind of see how we go. Alright, any news regarding to online play or Discord integration? Alright, so online play, fully online play won't be for a while. We'll be doing the Players Toolkit next year, if all goes well, which is built for local play, so just on the same Wi-Fi network. You can use something like Hamachi to sort of do that online. Discord integration is an iffy one, because the API, I don't know if you can actually hit Discord externally. You can write a bot for it, which is something like Avery. But yeah, in terms of what we can do for Discord, I don't think we can do much. I know for Twitch we can definitely do things, which we'll probably look at next year as well. So we can have people rolling in the chat and affecting the toolkit and stuff. Yeah, whether that's possible for Discord, I'm not sure, but it doesn't seem like it is. What's my normal workflow when I make maps? What do I start with and what are my general steps? That's a good question. Usually I just have a vague idea of the sort of encounter that I want to throw at the players. So I sort of structure that out and build it and then realize, hey, this would actually be a lot better if I add these things in. So I more just sort of I build a bit, I realize how it could be done better or how the encounter could be enhanced. So I then build that bit, and then it's just that iterative process. My maps never end up the way I imagine them to be when I first start them, if that makes sense. Brush tool and opacity to make realistic looking floors or ground. Yes, that definitely helps. If you want to spend the time to really make a map pop, then both doing that and making sure that the grid is below objects is what you want to do there. Yeah, outside of that, I normally start with the walls, so I can make the boundary and then do the rest. Will we do region and world maps? So that's something eventually we'll be doing. The actual time frame we're not sure of, because it's more of an asset issue than a functionality issue at this point. Yeah, we've chatted about it a bit, because as you know, in the public version, you've got the region maps and the world maps up there, but it's coming soon. Because originally we were yeah, we'll have separate editors for these things. And yeah, so it's more just we need to build the assets for it, and then we'll probably just use the existing Cartographer for it, maybe with a couple of other extra features in there. So it's definitely going to happen. We just need to figure out when we've got the time to actually build the assets for it. What about Cartographer rework? We're doing a small one before public, so just to get all the UI up to scratch. Fixing the layering issues definitely is a big one in there. But there's one or two other little things we'll be adding in. But the big Cartographer rework won't be until next year, because we really want to get public out and tokens, because it's been way too long. Oh, is there a way to do an outer glow / outline like in Photoshop? For example, I have a very complicated coastline. It would be nice to be able to show elevation and color variation without needing to go back through with a brush. Cool. At the moment, no, there's not. It's more of a shader issue, which shaders aren't really my forte, unfortunately. But yeah, it's not something we've got planned in the future, also just because like outlines are very expensive computationally. Like if you, even right now with the existing outline system to show you what's selected, if you select something that's like got a lot of little bits in it, it's going to slow everything down. So yeah, we need to find a way to do it in a way that's like really well optimized, which is a bit of a tough one. Oh, Ellie's giving some feedback there. Duplicate the object and make it dark and more transparent, and then just slightly offset it. Okay, anyone who's in Discord will probably have all their questions answered already, since we're pretty active there. Any plans for a more resource-friendly version? That's exactly what we're building right now. So all our new UI is a lot more resource-friendly than our old one was. So I can actually probably just bring up the new toolkit to show it off and do a bit of a screen share, because yeah, it's significantly quicker to use, which is good. When it comes to big maps, there's probably not a lot that we can do to optimize it at this point. It's more just shader-based stuff. But things like turning the quality settings down and whatnot is probably the main way to make it more resource-friendly on that front. So it's basically a UI similar to our 5.0 launcher. So it's all just black and white, essentially. Alright, that's loaded up. Woodsman, do you have any suggested resolutions or file types if we import from somewhere else? I've driven myself a bit batty worrying about resolution and pixelation on a big screen. Cool, so our grid is 256 by 256 pixels per square. So if you scale it to be that size, then it'll just import in natively. File types is JPEG or PNG. The main ones we support. If you have animation, then it's GIF or a PNG sequence, and hopefully soon we'll be doing WebM. In terms of the pixel size, I think 18K by 18K is our maximum. So try and stay below that. But yeah, apart from that, you shouldn't really have to worry too much. No pro. Depending on our long ass load time for the toolkit, which will be also fixed in the next update. None of this 20-minute load time if you've got a lot of assets. It's gonna be great. What packs are in the pipeline? Good question. So we're still finishing off Dungeons Deep, which will be the last in our fantasy saga. And then next year we'll be starting our Kickstarter for the Sci-fi saga, which is going to be a Sci-fi Essentials, a space pack, a cities, so your cyberpunk stuff, and then a sort of alien wilderness sort of thing. So it'll be pretty much next year's pack series that we're going to be doing, as well as expanding like the Halloween and the Christmas packs as well. But yeah, sci-fi is the big thing next year, which I'm very, very excited for. I'm sure we don't know how difficult it is to find good sci-fi assets. Why a Kickstarter? Because it gives us a bigger audience, essentially. Plus with the Kickstarter, there'll be a word for it. So anyone who backs the Kickstarter will get non-Arkenforge blocked versions of the assets. So because it's hard to find good sci-fi assets, yeah, you'll be getting like the actual raw PNG files and whatnot, raw GIFs of the animated content. So that also draws in a big audience who then they're like, hey, all this stuff's great, but if I used an Arkenforge, I can do all these extra uses with it. So they'll be getting an RW pack, well, not the RW pack, the code for the toolkit one as well. So yeah, it's more just an audience growing thing more than anything, and it's a lot easier to market a Kickstarter to everyone than it is to try and market the software to everyone. Because if you've got to go out and be like, hey, buy the Master's Toolkit, you get all this cool sci-fi stuff, compared to, hey, back this Kickstarter and get all these cool sci-fi assets. It's definitely an easier sell on the Kickstarter front, I reckon. How did the Arkenforge idea come to be? Was it like a kitchen table situation, or did someone start working on it and bring the others in? It was more of a kitchen table sort of thing, so all of us are in the same D&D group, and it was Dante who had the first idea, because the existing software he was using, I think was at the time Soundscape and Dungeon Painter Studio, just weren't cutting it for what he wanted. So he was more like, hey, I have to use all these pieces of software when instead I could just use one thing. So yeah, the original idea was just to have a simple map builder, a simple audio management, and a simple notes thing all just sort of jammed together. And it sort of grew a little bit since then with our features and whatnot. Yeah, so he recruited me, Chris, and Gary to jump in and do it. And I think, we actually figured out what we wanted to do back in June 2017. Originally, we built a few demo things, we had a simple initiative tracker and a character sheet builder and dice roller thing. And it was we don't know what the hell we're actually building here. We're just sort of doing the prototypes of stuff. But then, we figured that we'd combine it all and actually make stuff. Any ETA or ideas on tokens? Seems like Soundscape stuff has been in progress for a long time. I mean, it kind of has been. A lot of the Soundscape stuff that's been in progress hasn't been strictly Soundscape. It's been a lot of back-end work. So, the actual Soundscape stuff itself was maybe a few months, but we've also had reworking our back-end to make it that none of the audio content is loaded at the start now. It's all just loaded when needed. So we're sort of cutting down that loading time. We've got the new hotkey system. We've got the new Arkenbar system, upgraded our content linking system. We've got the screen profiles with multi-monitor display now, so you can have up to 8 screens connected at once with various GM screens and whatnot. Yeah, this is our new sort of lightweight UI. Everything kind of works instantly now, which is great. So on the right here, we've got the Arkenbar for actual content linking. We've got a full hotkey system, so you can change any hotkey in the toolkit now, as well as assign your own ones, so any piece of content can be hotkeyed. Our quality settings and whatnot. So all that's in. We've got, fun things here. So our new content loading system is a bit different now. So Soundscape itself was pretty easy. It's more all this auxiliary backend stuff, global search functionality, all that. Just a lot of stuff to make life a lot easier is what we've mainly been working on. So the next big thing is getting these and turning them into actual windows that we can move around and take advantage of our new multi-screen stuff. But then once that's done, it's moving on to other modules. So Soundscape itself has been finished for a good month or so. It's more just the other backend functions that we're using for the rest of the toolkit. On the token front, it'll be pretty much the last thing we're doing before the public update. So once Encyclopedia is upgraded, and then the Cartographer rework, the pack building rework, and then it's tokens after that. Thank you, and I understand that pain. After you so many applications, sometimes to get things looking decent. Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a bitch to do sometimes, and it was a lot worse back in 2017. Will site still work light? Oh, yeah, so yes. The foggable system we've got is pretty much going to be the same. The tokens will just have their own variables for it, essentially. So rather than having to give them a light source and then say like, all right, put the light through this fog of war, that sort of thing, it'll just be straight line of sight with no lighting required. Fog of war update would be lovely because the fog of war is a bit intensive, and also when you zoom out, you get those sort of artifacts because it's a chunk-based system. When you move around, it sort of moves things in and out. So finding a way to fix that would be lovely. What's your favorite or most proud of feature? For me, the content linking system is one I'm incredibly happy with. Just, yeah, figuring out how to get all the content to be super easy to just access anywhere. And yeah, the new public is going to be like the level of just linking you'll be able to do and just being able to access your content is going to be insane. Oh, Crusader 67. My biggest pain point is trying to make the grid on an imported JPEG map line up with the Arkenforge grid. It'd be nice if Arkenforge would read the DPI of the image and use that to automatically scale it. Any chance of having that happen? Definitely agree that importing maps is a huge pain in the ass and trying to scale the grid, and that's one thing we definitely don't do well yet. Reading the DPI of the image probably won't be doing it that way because images can have wildly different DPIs but still have the same grid level sort of thing. So like the grid is basically just what the person who made the map puts on it. We will be putting out tools so when you import an image, you'll be like, is this a map? And if so, like the best one I've seen that does it is you essentially you outline one square, then outline 3 squares, and then the more of them that you do, the more accurate the scaling is. So we'll be having like a tool at least probably like that that'll handle it, so you don't have to just try and manually like line up the grid and then try and scale it. So yeah, we won't be doing like a fully automatic system just because of the problems associated with that, with the variables that we can't really control. But there'll be some level of user input, but it'll be a lot easier than now. First demand some fancy grid recognizing code. We've talked about that, and it's theoretically possible, but it's a bit too iffy because if you have other things in there that it could think as a grid, like a wooden floor that's tiled or something like that, then you get into some recognition problems. Iraq's Plyers maps are the worst, but if you're using the table TV, you only need 1 square to line up and then make the AF1 invisible. Some maps like the Plyers 1 squares aren't even square. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, when maps just aren't square, that makes it a bit tough. Either, I don't know if it's in this Cartographer update or the next one, probably the next one, will let you actually just scale in one axis so you can sort of square them up a little bit more. But yeah, at the moment, because we don't have anything that's like dependent on the grid, like our fog of war and stuff isn't like super grid based, you can just turn the Arkenforge grid off and then just like line it up roughly. And most of the measurements will be close enough. You guys have an internal unit and or enter test suite. I wish that we did unit testing and stuff, but no, the beta version is our main testing suite. Unity doesn't really do unit tests the best. It's only like recently started officially supporting them, and I don't think we're on that Unity version to actually do it. So yeah, our testing is basically we hit play, and if it doesn't break, then we put it out to beta, and then everyone else tries to break it. And then if it really doesn't break, then it's good for public. Alright, am I on full time? Yes, I am. How many people are on the team, and what do they do? Alright, so there's me, I develop. There's Dante, he does all our first-party content stuff, so he will... all the music that you hear in the toolkit, Dante made. He does all our live stream stuff as well. And yeah, he sort of builds all the packs and gets them ready. There's Edie, she is our main artist, so all the art in the toolkit, that's like all the assets and packs and whatnot, is all Edie's doing. There is Jofi, who is another artist. She does all our token art, so once tokens are released, you'll be seeing all that. There's Gary. He builds everything in the hardware sense, so whenever you come to a convention, pretty much anything you see there, Gary built, especially in the Australian conventions. There's Chris. He exists. He sort of stepped back a bit, so doesn't really do too much at the moment. And as far as I know, I think that's... Oh, there's James. Yep, very important. Don't forget James. He's our US person. So he handles everything in America. And Ellie. Yes, thanks, Dante. Ellie's now jumped on board and she handles all the third-party content. So any marketplace partner who isn't part of Arkenforge is Ellie's domain. I'm fairly sure that's everyone. If I've missed anyone, Dante, let me know, but I think we're good. Alrighty. Isn't a question, just want to reiterate something I've said on Discord. You're by far so much more responsive and informative than anyone else. I actively read the Discord because you'll participate so much and it continues to draw me back every time I get frustrated. Oh, thanks, Woodsman. We try. It's definitely a pain in the ass when, like, even in the B2B sense, like, a lot of the other people that it's more the old guard of people I find that don't really reply. Like, I've straight up just never got a reply from Roll20, for example. Let alone, anyone else. Any plans for a Polygon tool for Fog of War in the short term? Not in the short term. We were going to try and do it for the public update, but it's sort of not important enough for the public update, if that makes sense. Because we've sort of realized, hey, it's been way too long since public came out. So we need to, just put the core things that need to be in there and then ship that out. So it'll be a next year thing, I reckon. Ooh. On scaling an input image, is there a way to adjust the amount that one notch changes the size? There is not, unfortunately. So the way it calculates it is that it's based on the UI distance of where it was to where it is now. So I think it takes it from the middle of the circle, if I remember right. So basically the less you want to scale it, the closer to the radius of the circle you want to hit. So if you're going straight out with the scaling tool, it's going to zoom in a lot more than if you just sort of curve it around the circle sort of thing. If you could specify numeric value to scale by, that will be coming in the next Cartographer update. Sure. How's Arkenforge been impacted by COVID? I'm in the US, we can't do conferences or much in-person gaming. Yeah, so here in Melbourne, we're locked down to you can't go outside of 5 kilometers from your house, which has been fun. Luckily, we don't work in person, or with each other in person. So the actual development part of Arkenforge is still pretty much the same, if not slightly better. But not going to conferences and stuff has been a bit of a pain. We've been doing some online cons here in Australia, which has been going well. So things like the Dungeons and Distancing Convention and ArcanaCon online and that kind of thing. But we're very keen to get back in person to meet everyone again. Because it's been way too long since I've been to a real convention. Which cons do we go to? So here in Australia, we do PAX Oz, GammaCon, both Canberra and Wagga when they do it there. We do, what's the other one? ArcanaCon, definitely shouldn't ignore that. We were meant to be doing the new ChaosCon when that was on, but that one got delayed till next year, but we'll be at ChaosCon in Sydney. And there's one other one, like a local one that I forget the name of, Conquest, that's it. And then in terms of overseas, we do Gen Con, we do GaryCon, PAX Unplugged, and then sometimes we do the UK Games Expo, But yeah, at the moment the return on that isn't really good because we can't sell in person there yet. But when we can, we'll definitely be going there a lot more. If you could have a dream feature that isn't currently in or important enough to put in, what would it be? Alright, so for me, that's my sort of... I've got two main long-term goals with it. One is the VR support, so when you're online, having like the 2D table there in front of you with all the maps and everything, and then having all your players actually sitting around the table in VR. That's definitely one of them. And the other one is having the toolkit just build everything for you, essentially. So you can just be like, I want a campaign. It's got these features, hit a button, and then it'll generate the maps and the quests and the audio presets and all that sort of thing. So they're the two things I'm kind of building towards in the long term. Make jamming a bit easier. Random gen would be cool, and yeah, we've got some plans for that in the long term. We've tried reaching out to a couple of people who do random gen, like fantasy name generator and that sort of thing for API access, but yeah, not at the moment. Animated 3D hologram tokens. 3D would be lovely, but I think we're very firmly going to be a 2D engine. Who is our biggest competitor and who are we impressed by? That's a big question. We don't consider ourselves to have competitors just because we're like so keen to integrate with everyone. The competitor is just a friend you haven't met yet. But I'm very impressed by Foundry. Like, they've gone crazy good. They're basically what we'd be like if we had have not rebuilt our UI 3 times. Other than that, Flowscape is pretty solid. Just like that ease of use for 3D map building, I think is pretty great. Hey Prickly, it's going well. I was very unimpressed by the Fantasy Grounds rework. I think they missed a huge opportunity to upgrade their UI and stuff. Yeah, Roll20, I think we can all agree, is not anything to be impressed with. There's a couple of newer ones coming out which look pretty good. But it looks like a lot of people now are trying to aim for that sort of 3D tabletop thing. Like there's not much now coming out in 2D that's new, which I think is pretty interesting. It's like they're definitely trying to push it in that more video gamey direction, but also like there's 50 years worth of tabletop stuff now that's purely 2D. So converting that all to 3D is going to be quite a challenge. So yeah, I don't think there's going to be as much uptake for the 3D ones as the 2D ones is. How's your digital atlas range of tabletops coming along? Yeah, you know how that's going quickly, Pat. We're still building tables and prototyping stuff. Yours will be coming at some point. I'm sure you're in contact with Gary. But yeah, in terms of the digital atlases that we advertised with the original Kickstarter, they just straight up don't exist anymore. There wasn't enough of an uptake with them. There kind of is these days. Like, we're starting to see digital tables at conventions, but back when we first did it, like, it was just way too far out there. But we do have different plans for digital play in person, which will be... We also had a Kickstarter plan for this year, which COVID sort of nuked that happening. The Fantasy Ground Unity wasn't impressive. Foundry is great. Yeah, the dev of Foundry is really good. It's even more impressive that it's just one person doing it all. Mad respect. Any long-term plans for license packages, like a pack for Curse of Strahd or something like that? We definitely want to get to that point. We're starting out with like the sort of Wizards competitors first, sort of be like, hey, check out this awesome thing that we can do. And then hopefully they'll be like, yeah, that's great. Here's a license. Because we don't want to go there and they'll be like, we don't know who you are. We're not giving you a license. And then it just makes it so much harder the next time we ask to try and get a license. We sort of need to build up our rep and show off what we can do before we start hitting up Wizards. But that's the end goal for sure, is getting official Wizards licensing for their modules. What do you think of Wonder/Dungeondraft? I did not know it was only one person at Foundry. Yeah, it's only one person at Wonderdraft and Dungeondraft as well. Mega Split is pretty good. I was a big fan of Wonderdraft, especially because it was a much needed bit of software since Incarnate was really the only thing out there at that point. So I think it wasn't until Wonderdraft came along where Incarnate really like picked up the pace and started doing, like actually doing good things. They sort of stagnated for a while. I think that's just more good proof that competition is good for everyone. In terms of Dungeondraft, it's still pretty early days, but what I'm seeing so far definitely looks really good. Yeah, simple map building is always great, and I'm a big fan of the with like some of the tiled animations, how it automatically puts like the waves lapping there and that kind of thing. Yeah, that was something that was pretty cool. But how that translates into user-imported content, I think, is something that we still need to see, because it's well and good to like have that stuff pre-made and ready there, but figuring out how a user's going to actually import their own content and have those automatic animations going, I think is going to be a bit of a challenge. Well, have you thought about approaching Worm Life or companies that make game tables about a joint project? I feel like AF and table TV gaming is the future of gaming in person. Definitely think it's the future of gaming in person. Yeah, at UK Games Expo, there's a few people that we chatted to there that were doing digital tables that we're probably going to be partnering with. And there's one or two people in the US who were there, which we'd be pretty keen on partnering with as well. But yeah, it's definitely feasible, and I think there might be one or two partners we've got now that are more like smaller tabletop companies that are making digital tables. I know we've got a list somewhere that Dante's got. But yeah, we're definitely keen on partnering with that stuff. Do you use Arkenforge for your own games? If yes, how do you do it in lockdown? So yeah, so Dante's our dungeon master at the moment, and he's running all our games through Arkenforge. We just do it on Discord with screen sharing. So we just screen share the player screen, and that brings all the audio through as well. And then we just let him know where we want to move, and he does it. For my own games, I used it a lot for Call of Cthulhu when I ran that, because just purely the soundscape just added so much to the game. It was great. Would highly recommend. What's your current biggest frustration with Arkenforge? Also, I know you're system agnostic. Will you ever be able to import rule systems or let a user manually build them in? I think Fantasy Grounds and Foundry do it. Yeah, so my biggest frustration is importing maps, because of the grid alignment and stuff is a bit of a pain. Some of the UX stuff with the current public version is a bit of a bitch, which we're sort of fixing in beta. So some of the stuff where files just can't be copied for some reason or another. We didn't build that functionality in, or I didn't build that functionality in. They won't blame the others for that. And yeah, the fact that Encyclopedia is still pretty terrible is definitely a big frustration. I'm so keen to get that up and running. Importing rule systems is definitely going to be coming, and letting users manually build them is definitely coming with that. We were going to be doing that with the Encyclopedia rework, but it's going to be a very, very big job building a rule system. The goal is to be able to build a full rule system in 2 weeks in the toolkit using drag and drop flowcharts and that sort of thing. So that's going to be a fun job. But yeah, that's definitely the dream. Luckily, I still do weekly games at my house, and AF has saved me countless hours of map tiles and printing shit. Excellent, that's good to know. Very happy that it's saving you time, because that is the goal. What size TV for a TV or table TV do you think is ideal, and is 4K needed? So in terms of size, I think between 40 and 50 inches is sort of the best, because you get enough space for a bunch of map, but your players can still actually reach to the other side of the screen if they need to move their tokens. Is 4K needed? I don't think it is. Dante probably begged to differ, because when we went to a con with the 4K TV, his mind exploded. So yeah, as Ogrex said there, 4K is definitely, you get a much crisper image, but I personally don't think it's needed. But your players will like it for sure. 4K also does mean that you need a better graphics card to run, because it's 4 times as much res as a 1080 is. Yeah, OX uses 50-inch on a 4x8 table. 4K is definitely a huge bonus. Pretty much. Yeah, at PAX Oz last year, there was someone that had it was Monty Hall Gaming, they had like a 70 or 80-inch TV table. Like, it looked really cool, but actually playing on it would be super impractical. What specs are you aiming for the final version of Arkenforge? I mean, we don't have like official specs in mind. Hopefully slightly better than what we have now would be great. Definitely, we'll still be in the probably 8 gig of RAM space, any CPU, and just any dedicated graphics card. Right now, I think to run perfectly smoothly, you need slightly too good of a graphics card than what I'd like, but with the UI rework, that should be fixed up a bit. So yeah, I know the original goal was like student laptop. I can only find the graphics card a bit prohibitive. Yeah, that's definitely fair. It's basically more on the mapping front where that is, because yeah, the assets are a bit big. If you run it with the lowest quality settings, you definitely should be better, I reckon. So that'll definitely cut down on the graphics card requirement, and if you're not running a 4K TV, that will also help. And yeah, just running the toolkit in like a lower resolution as well. Like if you've got a 4K screen, running it at 1080p will save you a bit of resources. Yeah, depends on you. I ran most of my games at a Plyers house or FLGS, and a £200 48-inch TV box was killing me. I didn't lose much other than a sore arm by dropping a 15-inch one. Oh shit, that's no good. Yeah, we're originally doing like TV boxes, but they weren't quite as portable as we'd like them to be. When do you think the Arkenforge Lite would be coming? Like, is it coming to beta or only in the public? Well, everything's eventually coming to public. The Lite Arkenforge is sort of being developed right now. So if you go into the beta, like the main menu and Soundscape is on the new sort of Lite system, whereas the others aren't yet. So hopefully at the end of the year, it'll probably be slightly later than the end of the year, we'll have that in public for everyone. So yeah, the way the streams work with development is that pretty much everything new goes into beta, and then once it's all bug fixed and whatnot, it goes into public once it's sort of the milestones hit and it's ready for it. So yeah, there's nothing that's going to be like only public or only beta, unless something just doesn't work in beta, in which case it'll only ever be in beta. But yeah, everything that we're planning is both beta and public. Yeah, you can pretty much use any new vid card to run at 4K because AF doesn't use much of vid card power at all. You say that, but if you build a huge map, you're definitely going to be running into some problems there. But yeah, any new card will run us fine. I think our demo stations run 1070s in them, maybe 1060s. So they go pretty well at conventions, so I think you should be fine with that. 1050, okay, that's what I'm being told. So yeah, 1050 runs everything pretty smoothly. Yeah, any new generation card is going to well and truly cover it. So by the time like 1.0 is out, I think pretty much any modern graphics card will be fine. I think 1050 is what Dante recommends as a minimum spec. Wonderful. Actually, I've had issues myself with running AF at its maximum distance. Most excited to be dumb and build a massive modern city. I mean, that's definitely, that's sort of what we advertise as the sort of infinite map thing. So, yeah, the bigger you build your map, and the more like intricate you build your map, the more graphics problems you're going to be hitting. I find memory issues are more likely when it comes to huge maps than graphics problems are. But your mileage may vary. When's the next stable release coming? The goal is to have it for the end of the year. I feel like it's going to go over that, but hopefully it doesn't. But there's going to be a lot of polish required. We've got to make tutorials once it's like beta ready, and then we've got to upgrade all our packs to the new systems. So like Soundscape presets aren't a thing anymore, so we need to convert them to the playlist, Ambience preset, and sound effects palette system, for example. There's going to be rearranging of assets and stuff like that. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty big job to update all the packs, and I'm glad that I'm not the one that has to do it. So between that, doing tutorials, bug fixing and polishing everything, it'll probably run over a bit. Most man, why Arkenforge? Because we were originally called Realmware, and then we got a cease and desist from Realmworks, or went off development. So Arkenforge was the next thing we came up with. What integration are you most excited or happy about? I'm definitely keen for D&D Beyond integration, as well as World Anvil. Those two are sort of, the big ones that we want to go for, because that feeds into some of our longer term goals as well. But yeah, just any integration where we're working closely with anyone is great. Eventually we'll have full Dungeondraft integration, which would be awesome. We've been told how their mapping system works and their files work and stuff like that, so we can essentially do native Dungeondraft maps when we have the time to build that functionality in. Same with Dungeon Painter Studio. Then Soundscape, we want to do a lot more on the integration front. There's a lot of things that we can do with their assets that they don't already, but we just need that permission, which we're not getting yet. So hopefully once the new public's out and we can be like, hey, we can do all these things with your assets, we'll be able to sort of push those boundaries a bit more between the Soundscape integration. I think Plyers would be a great company to approach. They're pretty community oriented. They are, and we've already got licensing approval with them. We just need to have the functionality there for it. So we could release map packs today, I reckon, with Paizo. So and we're just waiting for the token functionality to come out so we can actually release modules. How big is tabletop in Australia? It's really not very big. It's nothing like the US is. Our biggest tabletop con is PAX Australia, and that's I don't even know how to describe it. In terms of size, it's so the big halls you get at PAX Unplugged, if anyone's been there. Imagine the gaming area in that. It's maybe half of that size. And that's the largest one in Australia. So we don't really have many people making tabletop things here. But there's us, there's Flowscape, there's Sirenscape. But in terms of actual RPGs, you've got Fragged Empire and the Story Brewers folks, and that's really it. So there's just not much. There's definitely nowhere near what you have compared to video games for sure. Do you or your play group have a favorite setting or time period to play in? The group, they seem pretty happy with anything really. Right now, we're playing a system that Dante made called Taltosh, which is set in tribal Hungary. He's Hungarian, and that's been a pretty interesting one to play. I'm a big fan of anything that's not traditional fantasy at this point, just because of how much D&D we've played. So I'm getting into L5R is great, the samurai stuff. Call Cthulhu is good fun. I'm getting into Fragged Empire, which is sort of space sci-fi, and that's all pretty fun as well. So those are the main settings that I like at the moment. I think traditional fantasy has been well and truly overdone at this point. I understand that standpoint. My group has moved to almost anything other than 5e or traditional fantasy. Pretty much 5e I think is an excellent gateway tabletop game, but after a couple of years you just want to try other things really. Pathfinder 2 is fantastic, best RPG I've ever played, and I've played lots. We did Pathfinder 2 for quite a bit. I ran a small campaign in that to sort of understand the rule system. Definitely a big fan of the action point system with that. It makes everything a lot more streamlined. You don't have to worry about what's an action, what's a minor action, all that sort of thing. It's just, you've got 3 points and this action's going to cost you X amount of points. I know it's different from country to country. How do you feel that COVID and all social distancing affected you guys as Arkenforge developers compared to pre-COVID? As developers, it's basically not changed any of our workflows. It's just changed what we're prioritizing. So our touchscreen integration and our player toolkit stuff was all planned for this year, but we ended up not doing that just because there's no point developing all these in-person features when no one can play in person. So yeah, we've sort of changed our roadmap a little bit, but apart from that, not too much has changed. We're doing a lot more online cons now and sort of building up that, the experience to be able to run our own online conventions, which we'll hopefully be doing some of next year. Yeah, why should someone browsing for VTT grab Arkenforge now? If you're playing in person, then it's really the only option. There's a long list of things as to why we're better than most of the other people, but the main ones I like to go for are the native dual screen support or native multi-screen support now, because we can do up to 8 screens. You've got native video support, native animation support. I think we're still the only software, except maybe Roll20, that lets you just place animations down without needing to embed it as a background. You've got all the audio built in. You've got all the note stuff built in as well. Just, yeah, we're a complete package that you don't really see everywhere. Everyone does one thing well, I find, whereas we're trying to just do everything well. Follow up to Frost Immense question, why doesn't Arkenforge get more recognition? I don't see it much on Reddit or opinion blogs around VTT. Yeah, no, I really wish we did, because we've been around for 3 years, but just either no one cares about us or no one just realizes we exist, which is always a fun one. At conventions, we get I think at PAX Unplugged, half the people that we met there were yeah, we use Arkenforge or we've heard of it, sort of thing. But yeah, just we're never posted on Reddit. We're not mentioned in any videos or blogs or anything like that. I don't know. I wish I knew why. IF doesn't get as much attention because of the focus on VTT-s. True, because we're not online, possibly. But even when you look at videos about map builders or that sort of thing, still, we don't really get mentioned. I know, it's just one of those things where it's all a global conspiracy to keep us down, I guess. It's the only option. AF really requires a table TV. You don't need a tabletop TV for it, or table TV, where, that's obviously the best case scenario, is doing it. But, yeah, especially once Encyclopedia is up, and, once we've got Encyclopedia, you can just use it as a campaign management tool. I ran Call of Cthulhu amazingly without any table TV, just using the audio. There's definitely solid use cases outside of running it with a table TV, and we're trying to sort of push them a bit. But I know at conventions, because we have the table TV there, everyone's sort of yeah, you need a table TV for it. And I'm no, you don't. You can do other things. So yeah. You don't need a table TV, but it's best run with one. So yeah, they all talk about Astral or Dungeon Folk, which Dungeon Folk is cool and all, but I really dislike Astral. Yeah, I think Boundary's getting all the attention at the moment, which I think is definitely fair enough, because they've done some really good work. Astral, I don't hear too much about these days, and Dungeon Folk with their Project Deos is sort of getting a bit of attention, especially because they've partnered with World Anvil, and they're the biggest campaign management tool out there at the moment. Your map builder function is cool there, thanks. We do some fun things that no one else does, especially animation. I've already purchased AF, but I would support you guys on Patreon to get the upcoming functionality quicker and maybe get Nathan another coder or two. Yeah, unfortunately, supporting us on Patreon probably won't make anything happen faster. So, probably say no now. We've talked about doing a Patreon, but there's nothing we can really offer that would make a Patreon worth it. And we don't just want to take money for nothing, just support us by buying our new packs and that sort of thing. And yeah, another coder, I'm skeptical, so I let it help, because it's a project that takes one developer 1 month will take 2 developers 2 months. So, on that early point of being under the radar, whenever I post pictures of my group around the TV box, it gets a lot of views and ads, but almost always someone mentions how they don't feel like they're handy enough to make one. Simple TV box guide might help those folks. Quite possibly. We, with the hardware Kickstarter we're going to do, we're basically going to be making it super easy to convert your TV into a table thing. So there's a thing that Gary built, which I don't have one on me, unfortunately, but it's basically just a stand that screws into the bottom of your TV, and you can just sit it flat with that, and you can build a box around it. So, and we do that for our US cons, and that always works really well. So even just something like that would be good. But I think the big thing what we want to do is not associate Arkenforge with those TV tables or TV boxes, just because it makes people think, oh, I need to spend hundreds of dollars now to get a TV and a table sort of thing, whereas they can use it perfectly fine without that. That's definitely the hard part. If helping you guys is buying the map packs, please make them into a combined all-in-one and I'll purchase today. Once Dungeons Deep's done, we're going to be doing a fantasy bundle which has all the packs in it for the fantasy saga. So by the end of the year, you'll be able to put them in an all-in-one pack. I'm a journeyman carpenter and could make a video on how to make a table TV in less than 2 hours. Cool. Go for it. That'd be a good tool for the community. I love all your stuff. I just wish it was easier to do large maps or city maps. I also wish you had Photoshop style controls sometimes. You're shining your light controls in smaller maps. I'm not a big fan of tutorial or encyclopedia. Okay, that's good. So the new Cartographer is definitely going to be looking more Photoshop-y. If you can elaborate on what Photoshop style controls are, we can definitely look at doing some things like that. Encyclopedia is definitely getting upgraded. The current one is straight up terrible. I agree with that. And I'm not a big fan of your tutorial. Okay, how could we do our tutorials better? Also, alternative settings and timelines, it's really fantasy heavy. Yeah, it is. That's basically just because of our A, original Kickstarter goals, and B, everyone plays D&D, so we sort of had to cater to them first, but next year's all sci-fi, so that'll be good. Would you consider a window mode for a player screen or a virtual monitor, or turn your phone into a second monitor thing? I know when we do our online stuff, we'll be doing that. Probably won't be for a bit, though. Having the map on the player screen is something that we've, when the player toolkit comes out for the mobile app, is something we're considering, but doing it is a tough one just because, we need to stream all that data across and figuring out, do you just do it as an image or do you do it as a video so you get all the animation in there as well? Because you can't have the phone rendering the map because the phone's not going to be able to handle that. So there's a lot to figure out on that sort of turning your phone into a second screen sort of thing. With the new updates to the modules, having them windowed, we can do the player screen in a separate window, which you could have on the GM screen, which would be pretty nifty. But we don't have solid plans for that yet. It's still very much the player screens on a second monitor kind of thing. Dante tutorials are horrendously outdated at this point as well. Yeah, they are. We're going to be doing a lot of them once, just before public. Sci-fi and cyberpunk style maps are really in demand right now, especially on Reddit. For sure, that's a big part of why we're doing sci-fi next, because I play a lot of sci-fi and it's really hard finding good assets for sci-fi and cyberpunk. Especially with Cyberpunk 2077 launching soon now. There's going to be a huge cyberpunk demand on that. Photoshop control, brush styles, layer styles and settings, eraser as a brush instead of whole tiles. Lasso tools, masks would be great. I'll be able to do multiple layers, so do depth in an image. I know some of that isn't possible, but I think of Photoshop tools when it comes to maps. Nice. So brush styles is theoretically possible. Layer styles, probably not. Eraser as a brush is definitely the dream, but it's a lot more complicated than you'd expect it to be because we're not just dealing with sort of pixels on a grid sort of thing. It's actual objects that are in the world. Lasso tools, definitely want to do that. Masks would be great. Not sure if we can do that one, but we might be able to. Multiple layers, so do depth in an image. You can sort of layer things already, between the levels and the just moving things back and forward. And definitely a good list there. So, any plans for external device support, Sonos, drawing tablets? Drawing tablets, yes, that'll be next year, I reckon, because we're doing our big touch upgrade and drawing tablets are a part of that. Sonos, I'm not sure what Sonos is. I'll have to look that one up. Beam Smart Wireless Soundbar. Okay. Can't say I've heard of that one before, but I'm not sure how we'd support it. Right now, our audio is based on the default audio setting that you've got on Windows. But I can definitely add that to our requested thing list. Googlecast Apple TV. We actually got in touch with someone at Google who found us a C# API for Googlecast. So that one will be theoretically possible, I reckon. Apple TV, I'm not sure what their API is like. So I unfortunately can't confirm or deny Apple TV, but Googlecast should be possible at least. What's my last one? I almost forgot about gradients like linear, radial, angle, or bevels. Bevels will definitely be coming because we've got one user who has been asking for that for like 2 years now. One of our community support officers. Gradients would be nifty. Not sure if we'll get them in, but we'll see how we go. A better color picker is coming, that's for sure. I think we've got the UI for that now. We just need to actually implement it. Dante's done some fancy designs, so yeah, I agree about a color picker. Like the current one doesn't do gray unless you type in the values, so yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. It was basically just a plugin that we found because we needed a color picker. But yeah, now that we can actually design our own, I think we can do it a lot better. Yeah, it's a bit of an issue. At least that's pretty much the main reason why I put in the RGB values and the hex value, just so you can actually type in the gray instead of having to just not have it. Yeah, it's definitely a bit of an issue. I don't know how the people who made the asset overlooked it, but you'd be able to make night vision or dark vision. Eventually, yes. Not in the next update, but it'll definitely be it's part of the planned token stuff, but like sort of medium-term token stuff. I'd say it won't be in the initial tokens. But no, we definitely want to do like night vision and dark vision, that sort of thing. I've got the demo code for it, but it doesn't mesh well with our existing lighting engine, so there's going to have to be some changes made there in the shaders. But yeah, having like dark vision where you can see everything but it's in black and white will be super cool and definitely a planned feature. That's when I really appreciate you guys. Thanks. We appreciate you guys too, because without you all, we wouldn't have half as good of a product. Greetings, hey Lee. How you doing? Animated tokens will be fully supported. That's basically been a plan since we had animation support. Your token support going to have the tokens have HP values and stats and such. So right off the bat, I think our initial one will have we'll definitely have HP in there. And I think maybe some basic stats you can assign, but it won't be like a system-specific kind of thing. But once we get our system-specific support, then your tokens will be having like a character sheet attached to it, essentially. Like a text and move. I know we've got plans for our own stuff to release that. So Dante's been working with some folks to get like move animations, attack animations, and that sort of thing. So being able to set your own custom ones of those will be definitely a good one in the longer term, I reckon. Because it'll be a bit of a complex system where you've got to set up a bunch of different token animated stuff. So yeah, I'm not quite sure how that'd look yet. Do you have plans to implement a DM die roller? Sure do. So we've got, one of the first things we built actually was a dice roller in Creator. We just never put it in the toolkit because we didn't sort of hit that point. But yeah, you'll be able to create your own custom dice and custom die rolls and that sort of thing. So almost the first thing we built was something where you could have dice and basically put on as many faces as you wanted or as many images as you wanted onto the dice. So if you're playing like L5R, for example, where you don't have numbers on your dice, you could put like, your different icons and stuff. Eventually we want a 3D dice roller in there as well, because people love 3D dice rollers, but it probably won't be in there to start with, I don't think. Take inspiration from beyond. Their dice roller is the best I've seen. Cool. We will do that. We can check that out. Okay, we definitely want in the longer term, like with the player toolkit, being able to buy dice. When you roll your dice, they show up on the main Master's Toolkit table with your own like icons and like fancy animations, like if you crit, an explosion happens and that sort of thing. So dice rolling is going to be a big thing once the player's toolkit's out for sure. Yeah, so we've got plans for the DM dice rolling. We've got plans for card decks as well. So for things like Savage Worlds, where you have a deck of cards that you need to do, that'll be a thing. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Beyond selling virtual die sets. That's fine. Our virtual die sets are basically going to be player's toolkit only, because the player's toolkit's going to be free. So we need to find some way to monetize it, and the best way is through like personalization of your character and like the way you're playing the game. But they're definitely optional purchases. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Beyond selling a character, like individual classes for like 50 cents or whatever, but oh well, I just don't buy them. Plus, if we do virtual dies, then that allows us to partner with other companies as well. More integration, fun, combined business things. Are we selling them individually like Beyond or in a pack like most of your stuff? We're not sure yet. For the player's toolkit, it's probably going to be individually, but we'll have like packs available. Like anything Master's Toolkit is always going to be like pack based, just because that's what we want to do there. We're very anti-microtransaction when it comes to the toolkit. And pretty much the only reason we're doing it for the player toolkit is because that's how mobile kind of works. Like people don't want to spend $10 on something, they'd rather spend like $1 when it comes to mobile. Yeah, we're still not 100% sure, but we'll figure it out as we go kind of thing when the player's toolkit's actually built. But it's still a while off yet. We've got our minds on other things at the moment. Plus as well, you've got to deal with like Apple and Google's takings as well. So anything that you buy through the app is
These are the top results.
Oh, why are you telling me that, Siri? Oh, Siri, Google Plus person. Put you on mute. Will Player's Toolkit have a sub? No, Player's Toolkit is going to be free. That's one decision that we've made already. Because yeah, having to get your players to buy anything is a nightmare. Because everyone doesn't opt into it and like pay for a player's toolkit, then you're just going to have one player there who's just not getting that experience. So yeah, player's toolkit will be free and then just supported by like optional cosmetic microtransactions essentially. Can Sash, will you upload the Q&A to your YouTube channel? I want to catch up with what I missed. Yes, we'll definitely be doing that. And we'll be cutting the initial coming soon part of it as well. So it'll jump right in. Yeah, there's actually been quite a few questions today, which has been pretty good. There's a bit more than what I was expecting. Can players import custom tokens? They will be able to. Right now, it's all just toolkit based, as you know. But yeah, players should be able to import anything they want. Custom tokens, custom dice, whatever other custom things we do. In terms of rule sets, I don't know if they'll be importing them or if it'll be like linked to the toolkit. So like the GM will have to approve any rule changes or anything like that. But that's also like mechanical things we'll figure out later. Do you have plans for like possibly a word? Oh, like a build your own token kind of thing? But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Is Arkenforge sustainable for you with no subs? Yeah, we're making profit, which is good, and we're able to pay ourselves. So we're not in any risk of going bankrupt or anything like that, which is good. No subs definitely puts it on hard mode because we need to actually keep making and selling things, which is probably a better thing than just being able to have subs and just sit there and do nothing like some other platforms. Yeah, we're very happy that we went down the no sub route, and I think a lot of our users are with us because we don't do subs and we sort of won't be doing subs. Do you have a favorite map asset artist or someone you've wanted to get to import their stuff into Arkenforge? I personally, not so much. 2-Minute Tabletop's a great one I'd love to get in just because I've got a large library of content and it looks like that nice sort of hand-drawn style is really good. Yeah, I don't use third-party assets too much. So yeah, I don't personally have a favorite. Will we be implementing secret and public die rolling where only the DM and individual can see the roll, or everyone can, like a toggle? Yes, we will. How it'll actually work, we're not sure yet, but like most things, it turns out. But yeah, everything will be public and private versions of it, so even like with our notes, you'll be able to have public and private parts of the notes and that sort of thing. It won't be a toggle, but we'll figure out something nice and innovative there for it. I love 2-Minute Tabletop. Yeah, they're pretty great. Big one I want to do is get like someone like Flowscape sort of more strongly partnered so we can like import their stuff more natively. So right now they've just got like an orthographic top-down export, which is not the best, especially when they do animated stuff. Forgotten Adventures is fantastic. They are. One of our users was going to be building a full Forgotten Adventures pack. So we need to chat with them at some point and get their stuff, because I remember they were keen on doing, like, releasing a free Arkenforge community pack. I'll have to get Ellie on that and see how it's going. So it's been asked, but is performance optimization still coming, or is it considered complete? We're currently working on it in the beta stream. So all our UI is being optimized, and it already runs a lot better than it used to. Like using the launcher is a good example. Like that used to run terribly, but now it runs significantly better with the v5.0 update. So we're sort of rolling that throughout the entire toolkit. So our current UI in public definitely takes up a lot of resources. Mapping, I don't know how much more optimized we can do mapping just yet, but we'll see how we go with it. Your Kickstarter was tiny. How long did those funds last? How did you get it up and running for 20k? Good question. Well, basically because we weren't paying ourselves, it was pretty easy to do, I guess. Like it would have been done anyway, I reckon. It was more for our artists that we had on staff to get things up and running. It paid for the convention the next year, like straight up. And there's a couple other things that we did more on the business side. So the funds lasted as long as we needed them to, sort of thing, until we initially released the actual paid version of the toolkit in, I think, April 2018 it was? Maybe March 2018? But yeah, plus we all had other jobs at the time. So that definitely helped. A lot of it also went on hardware costs, so building the tables and shipping them, we did for the Kickstarter. Because shipping a table to America costs hundreds of dollars, it turns out, which we weren't aware of at the time, which was insane. Is this your full-time work, Nathan? Yes, it is. I've got a couple other fun side projects, but this is what I'm doing with most of my time. Just all on Arkenforge. Yeah, we're actually making money now, so I can get paid for doing it, which is why I was able to make that switch to full-time. Which is great. definitely the best project to be working full-time on. Everyone full-time? I am. Dante is at this point, I'm fairly sure. Edie's definitely full-time. Jofi's part-time. Gary's sort of casual, so as we need hardware built, because he's got another job. Yeah, everyone working on the core toolkit stuff, so me, Dante, and Jofi are full-time. I think Ellie's part-time at the moment. Yeah, definitely Dante being full-time was a big step up, because now all our UI and stuff is ready. About the audio mixer, are you planning to have subsections in the presets? When I have initiative start, it'd be nice if I can have certain audio stop-start without selecting every piece individually. Yeah, so our new Soundscape update is pretty much all about that, having modular ambiences and whatnot. So it'll probably take a bit to load up, so I won't do it here. But yeah, it's designed so now your ambience presets, you just sort of drag them in and out as needed. So say you've got a battle preset where it's got like 5 or 6 different ambiences playing of sword clashes and bows going and that sort of thing. You can just drag that onto the mixer and it'll just start playing, and then you can just drag it off again when it stops. So it's built to be like a lot more modular and a lot easier to manage your audio now. But yeah, the new audio mixer was the big thing I was keen on for the Soundscape update, just because of how much easier it's going to be to manage audio now. Oh, toolkit's loading a lot quicker this time. That's great. I should be able to show things off in the next. Plans for Spotify, we've put in a request for commercial licensing. So code-wise, we're pretty well good to go, but like it's been 6 months and they haven't approved our license request yet. Apparently they're swamped. So yeah, we're purely just waiting on them to give us a go-ahead for commercial licensing, and then we're putting Spotify support in. In terms of competitors, the only real one we've got Soundscape, but we're like integrated with them, so like they're not really a competitor anymore. Yeah, Soundscape's the only real audio platform in tabletop outside of us. You got things like websites like tabletopaudio.com, or there's 1 or 2 other ones that I can't think of at the moment. But right, I'll share this screen and then make some stuff. Yeah, cool. All right. So here's the toolkit here. We go into our ambience builder. We've got our battle one here. Let's take all these things out because none of them are actually battle related. Alright, so let's put in some solid. Number. Bullet hit. Arrows. Cool. So we've got that. We'll have save forest. Tree. Here's forest. Just that global search, so it makes it a lot easier to actually search for things. Good windy forest. Some birds in. Morning birds, why not? Cool, so here's that. And if we go to our mixer, we've got our forest. It just plays. And Bywoodsman. If we check the stream that the audio is going. I don't think the audio on this can be heard in the stream, unfortunately. Let's just see if I can fix that. Yeah. Anyway. So now I can just, the battle starts, drag the battle in, and now the swords and stuff start going. Alright, cool, you're looking here, that's good. And then when the battle stops, drag it out again, or right click, remove it. And then, no more battle. So you can build these up pretty solidly, and once we've got our linked map stuff, you'll be able to just do that, which will be good. So you could link the forest audio onto the map, so when your party gets close to it, they'll it'll just show up in the mixer, and then you can just drag the battle in and out as needed. So it's designed so it's significantly easier to manage now. You used to be able to drag it out, but apparently you can't now. It's up here. But that's how that works. Any features you're particularly excited to see hit in the upcoming updates? It's basically just the Encyclopedia update. That's going to be really good, I reckon. So I'd like to use Soundscape, but I find it be too much to juggle when running my PF2 games. Sometimes I'll set up a pre-made sensor, but I'd love something where I can have a bunch of diff, forest, jungle, town presets and just hit a button. You can in beta now. If you want to run your games in beta, you can just put all those ambiences up here on the Arken bar, essentially, and then just click on them and they'll work. The what? Tell me more about that. If it's the Arken bar, then you can just drag content on there and have it be linked, so you can just click on it and it'll work. So that's something that's one of the things we've done to make it a lot easier to have your content where you need it. It's the Encyclopedia, then it's all the note stuff, but actually looking good and not like this too much. Is beta stable enough to run my games from? I'd say yes. It's definitely more stable than public is at the moment. There was just an error when I tried to do that preset there, so your mileage may vary, but I reckon you could run games from it at this point. The Encyclopedia, so we've got the Encyclopedia module now, which is just the notes section. I just select some stuff. So we've got stuff here. We'll be expanding this a lot and changing up the UI, because currently we've got quests with this sort of hard-coded section, but we won't be having hard-coded sections anymore, which will be pretty great. Spoilers for the campaign that Dante was in. But this is going to be significantly updated, because right now it is not good. Does beta have all my stuff loaded from the stable client as well? Yes, it does. So beta and public both go from the same data folder. The things you make in beta with the new audio won't show up in public just because it doesn't have that functionality. But anything you make in public will show up in beta except for Soundscape presets, because they're not a thing anymore. Hey, Fantasy Saga is going to be a bundled product for all our fantasy packs, but maybe Nathan can tease it. I'm not too sure what I can do to tease anything outside of just showing maps, really. We haven't built anything Fantasy Saga based. Is beta release 2.0.0.1 the latest? Current beta is 03255, I believe. So if you go to the launcher, it won't show up because I'm not sharing that. In the launcher, in the beta version, it should say version 0.3.2.55, I believe is the latest one. Just info on the Fantasy Saga. Cool. So that will be, essentially. So once you own Dungeons Deep, Essentials, Wild, and Towns and Cities, you'll have another pack showing up in your launcher, which will be the Fantasy Saga. And basically be a whole bunch of maps and audio stuff built from all pieces of the 3 packs. So it's just like a bunch of pre-made modular things, which should be pretty neat. I'm not sure where you got 2001 from, the beta release. Yeah, we're well beyond that at this point. But yeah, if you're not on Discord, then jump in and provide feedback in the beta version channel when you try it with things that break and whatnot. We can actually fix stuff up. Even on my beast of a comp, loading into AF takes more than 5 minutes. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing we're going to be doing with the beta is completely removing that load time. Because it's mostly just the tiles that does it. And yeah, it takes a long time because it's loading all the meta files into the toolkit, which it won't need to do for much longer. Like we have some people who it takes like 45 minutes for them to load just because they've got like 100 gig worth of assets that it's trying to load in. So yeah, my first big priority with the beta update is removing those preload times, which we've done for audio now. So now you don't have any audio loading in at all with the beta version. At least not at the start. Obviously it loads in later on. But yeah, when we hit Cartographer, it'll be doing the same for that. Yeah, it's not based on how good your computer is. It's just linear based on the number of assets you've got. But I find the second time I launch it, it loads a lot quicker. It's like Windows is prioritizing that as a loading thing, which is good. Cool. Well, so that's all the questions. So I think we'll end it there. So thanks everyone for coming along. Thanks for all the questions and the feedback. Hope you all enjoyed it. We'll definitely do another one of these in the future.